Good morning, everyone. We have the beautiful Lisa Novak and myself talking about Airbnb, what it means in your strata building.
I'm the ringleader, so listen up.
Cleo, good
Good morning.
morning.
Good morning, Lisa. How are you?
Good, the blonde and the brunette.
I
And
know.
Mark had to run into a meeting. We're actually just both going into a meeting. And he goes, "Oh, actually, can you just quickly do it? Threw me the phone."
Of course.
So you should see my setup. I'm like, I've got the phone on the dashboard, and yeah, we're just gonna I don't know, wing it, won't we? And that's the reality of doing this sort of stuff. It's like, don't overthink it. Just get on, have a conversation, and see who you can help.
It's true. It's true. And there's always lots to talk about in real estate. This morning we've chosen Airbnb. I guess this topic coming into the winter months isn't as relevant as when you've got, coastal rentals, Manly, our beautiful beaches. A lot of tenants and owners do like to Airbnb their properties when they're on holidays.
Yeah.
Basically, we have a unit block that there is a ban on Airbnbs. The owners don't allow non-host people to Airbnb that property, and that usually just means not the owner. So if you're a tenant, you can't Airbnb, and that's put in as a bylaw. And if you do, and it's found out, you're in breach of your lease agreement, and the agent or owner can send you a termination notice for not
Wow.
complying. Yeah, yeah.
Now, is
So
that even with the new termination laws, Cleo? Because I really just want to break this down because
yeah,
sometimes we speak in a language that people don't understand. So, can we just talk about if you're in an apartment and you're like, oh, I'm going to Airbnb this property, if you're an owner, what's a bylaw? Tell me what a bylaw is, just so that people can understand what we're talking about.
sure. The bylaws are the set of rules that have been designed for that unit block by all the owners in that unit block. It's also managed by the Strata Schemes Act, and it is a government enforced legislative act, and you can include bylaws to tailor everyone's concerns that might own in that building. Those bylaws have somewhat changed, as you said, with the new regulations. You used to be able to put a pet ban, absolutely no pets. Things are a bit more relaxed now. But there are certain things within the bylaws that everyone needs to comply with. One obvious bylaw is parking. Parking in visitors' car spots, for example, it's not allowed. If you're caught parking in a visitor's car spot, they can impose a fine. You will then get a letter as the owner, even if it's your tenant, as the owner, you get that letter and
Yeah.
you get the fine. So it's basically a set of rules. So adding to those set of rules, some unit blocks have included Airbnb. If you are not the owner living in the property and you are the tenant, they can make that an enforceable breach by having, Airbnb. And I've thought about, why do people not want Airbnb people? Well, look, it disrupts the building, especially if you've got a really high turnover of guests. Some people find it a security issue for that building. They like to know who's living in the building, especially
Yeah.
these little boutique blocks and what have you. And a funny one that I saw before was, when I was looking online, was the wear and tear of amenities like lifts with suitcases, and congestion of parking and things like that could really impact a unit block when you've got an influx of guests or tenants, coming in and out. So they don't like it.
No, they definitely don't. And so, guys, for anyone that's watching or that is interested, Cleo, where can the bylaws be found? So we now know bylaws is a set of rules, but let's say I'm an owner and I'm like, I want to Airbnb my property. Where do I find the bylaws?
Usually there's a common area where they have a set of bylaws displayed in a cabinet. That was a very 70s, 80s thing to do, but now
Yeah.
most owners have access to their portal through Strata, and you can get a copy of your bylaws easily. You could even just email your Strata manager and they'll send them over to you. They're quite
Okay.
a thick document.
There's
It's
often a
a
lot. There's often a lot on there. There really is. And if you're looking to buy an apartment, because I've got one at the moment that I'm selling, and it's very Airbnbable, if that's even a word.
yeah,
You can actually find the bylaws in the contract of sale. So if you're looking to buy a
perfect.
property, yeah, that's where you're going to find those bylaws. So Cleo, I just want to let's just talk about it for a sec, because a lot of people just go, "Oh, I'm going to Airbnb it," because you do make a lot more money, right? Airbnb than what you do on a your stock standard weekly rental.
And for a landlord that, or an owner, as they call the host, or if you're living in there, that's okay, unless the other owners come together and they've made complaints. But tenants aren't, because they're essentially making money off the landlord. They're Airbnb probably more than what they're paying for their weekly rent. So it's a contentious point, and especially what usually happens is tenants go on holidays and they're paying rent while they're going on holidays. So they think, why not just Airbnb it? Um, and we have found tenants that have done that on the sly, and we've had to, penalize them when they come back, maybe not renewing their lease. The owner might decide, then they don't want them as tenants anymore because they haven't gone about it the right way. Um, so there are things that we look for. Obviously, we go online sometimes. It's usually the neighbors that tell us, look, oh, I don't know, there's been people coming and going, or they have parties that's really loud, and then we investigate. We go online and we're like, oh, there it is for $300 a night.
Wow.
But
And
yeah.
there's a considerable amount of wear and tear on a property as well. A lot of people
Mhm.
dismiss that, with the Airbnb, because obviously long-term rental, you've got people in there in their homemaking. They're moving in, they're taking out a 6 or 12 month lease, and that's their home, as opposed to someone who's Airbnbing, and most of the time it's okay. But, people often are there on a holiday, and sometimes they'll use it as a party pad as well.
Yeah.
And this is where we start to fall into trouble. But the wear and tear is considerable with the Airbnb as opposed to a long-term tenant. And then not only that, we actually don't look after the management of Airbnbs. We look after the management of longer-term rentals, because there is so much involved in that management, that ingoing, the outgoing, the clean, isn't there? There's an
Yep, the
enormous
bond
amount
money.
involved.
And anything that's a considered STRAs, as in short-term rental accommodation, they're covered by different laws. So um, we don't do short-term rentals lower than 3 months because they're not covered by the Residential Tenancies Act. So all those rules that apply to a normal tenancy don't apply if it's a 3 month or less lease agreement. So we don't do those. Our lease agreements are typically 6 months. But yeah, the wear and tear, definitely the bonds money, things like that. With an Airbnb is tricky waters when you're a managing agent trying to mitigate loss for the owner if the tenants have a bad guest, for example, staying. And we also have those tenants that say, oh, it's not Airbnb, they're friends of ours, they've come from overseas, they're staying. That sort of deceit can really easily come undone, and it will, especially in this strong tight market. You're best being forthcoming with your agent, with your owner, and saying, look, I'm going to Europe for 6 months or 3 months, is there anywhere I could Airbnb for a couple of months? And then just ask the question. You'll be surprised. Some owners might be okay, some buildings might be okay. I know that some unit blocks, DY Beachfront, Manly, they're used to Airbnb. They've got no
Yeah.
restrictions. So you'd be foolish to risk your lease agreement and do it, excuse me, in the wrong way. So
Yeah.
yeah, I
Okay,
feel
so
just being honest.
question, because I know that there's new termination, or you can't terminate a tenant. There's new termination laws that have come out. So I'm a tenant. I've decided that I'm going to Airbnb. I didn't tell anyone. What does the termination look like?
Look, it's a breach of the agreement. That hasn't changed with these new legislative things. It was no grounds evictions that have changed, so giving no reason for a 90-day notice. The breaches of the agreements haven't really changed. If you're in breach, an agent can take you to NCAT, supply evidence of the breach, as in breach of the bylaws, breach of the lease agreement, reasons why, and your lease can be deemed, frustrated. They can terminate you. It's usually with breach notices, it's a 3 strikes you're out. It's not the first breach, like if something you continue to do. But something like a breach of a bylaw, once Strata have sent you a breach as well, that's official, that's coming from Strata. You take that to NCAT, you plead your case, and you could be asked to vacate very, very
Wow.
easily.
Unbelievable. All right, guys, that's a wrap. Hopefully, that's helped some of you people out there. I know we get asked a lot about Airbnb. I know I certainly do. I know Cleo, you're a phenomenal property manager. I'm sure you get asked all the time, and I know I certainly do in sales. People are like, can we Airbnb this? So refer to your bylaws, see what you can do, stick to the rules. Everyone's all over the Airbnb. There was a time years ago where you could just get away with absolutely everything to do with Airbnb your property. But now it's become a real thing. It's a business for people, and there is quite a lot of law and legislation around it. So make sure you're following the rules, guys, because chances are you probably are going to get found out. And hopefully this has helped some people out there.
And yeah, again, like Lisa said, just talk to us. We're happy to help guide you through if you can or you can't Airbnb. Have a great day.
You too.
Stay. Well, it's not raining. It's nice
I
today,
know
thank
the
God.
sun's out. I said that to Mark before. I was like, such a nice morning. What's different? Oh, the sun's out.
Sun's out.
See ya, lady
See
in
ya.
red. I love the red on
Bye.
you.
Thank you. Thanks so much,
See
Liz.
ya.
I'll see you in the
See you
office.
guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.